Welcome to the Penny Bloom Podcast. Ain't another place that has got more bombast. Romp past your mom, dad's listening to Tomcats. Talking everything that make you sad. We don't want that. We're here to make you smile. Put your mind at ease. Peace, love, and bloom, and always praise Keanu Reeves. This what we about. This some weeding now. We'll talk until we can't no more, and then we peacing out. Alright, let's go. Penny Bloom Podcast. It's the Penny Bloom Podcast. Penny Bloom Podcast. It's the Penny Bloom Podcast. Penny Bloom Podcast. Penny Bloom Podcast.
Hello, everybody, and welcome in to another episode of the Penny Bloom Podcast. It is I, Colton Robertson, and today I am joined by Joseph George. What's up, homie?
What up, what up? Always a pleasure to be here.
Oh, and it is always a pleasure to have you. Today, we continue our 52-year journey through film. We've made it all the way through the 70s, all the way through the 80s, all the way through the 90s, and we're a little bit over halfway here through the aughts. We're in the year 2006, and this week brings us The Departed. I would say, recently we've had a little bit of a saga of cop movies. We had Training Day a couple weeks back, and then I feel like a few weeks before that even.
Seven.
Yes, that's what I was thinking.
There.
Seven.
Shawshank, I guess, had some cops involved.
Yeah, it had correctional
fiction,
officers.
Not really cops, but
yeah. No, yeah, I'd say Seven. The Seven, Training Day, and The Departed is our cop trilogy as of right now, and I tell you, I walk away from The Departed here certainly feeling better than I did about Seven or Training Day.
I would agree. I think maybe the only thing that I'm walking away differently is in Seven. I think it was more creative, more unique. But that's probably the only difference there. I'd
say Seven was probably Seven had a few of the same pitfalls that I had with this movie, actually, and a few of the same pitfalls as I had with Training Day. So I'm excited to talk about it, and but let's lay the groundwork for the people. The Departed, released on October 6th, 2006, written by William Monahan, the screenplay anyway, based off the movie Internal Affairs, written by Alan Mack and Felix Chong, and directed by Martin Scorsese. This is our third Scorsese flick on the 52-year journey through film. We've had Taxi Driver, and we've had Goodfellas. So we've had him in the 70s, the 90s, and the aughts. Quite the expansive career, and I believe Taxi Driver might have even been our 1976 movie.
It was.
So it was indeed. This is 30 years apart.
Wow.
30 weeks apart.
That's crazy. Yeah, he's I think out of the Scorsese films that we've covered, I feel like I'm walking away higher on Goodfellas than The Departed, but I definitely like this movie more than Taxi Driver.
I'd say so too. I'd say so too. And there are points. This is a little more riveting than Goodfellas was. There's like Goodfellas. There's a whole other there's a different appreciation for that movie and that story as it unfolds. The way it's told is really fascinating. The perspective of the snitch being unfolded the whole time as he's confessing and telling his side of the story, and then that being how the film comes together. I thought it was a really interesting storytelling device, and I think that's kind of something this movie lacks. Is the it has a pretty interesting storytelling device, but I don't know that it comes together as satisfyingly as Goodfellas does by the end of it. However, this one keeps me on the edge of my seat. I'll say that for sure.
Oh yeah. I was definitely I will say that this is kind of I've seen this movie before, but I've never gotten to the ending, and I don't know why. Every time that I've watched this movie, I've had something else come up, or I've joined in halfway through, or something along those lines. So I've never got to sit down and fully watch this movie before.
I actually have a pretty funny story. one time, you know, like I'm watching this movie and like I'm like I know I've seen a part of this, but I can't remember what part of this I've seen. And we're on the elevator down, right, with Matt Damon and Leonardo DiCaprio. Leonardo DiCaprio has him in his handcuffs, and I'm like, man, this doesn't feel like how this movie's supposed to end. And you know, he steps off the elevator, gets a bullet in the head, and it was at this moment that I realized, holy shit, there was a time when my dad was channel surfing, saw The Departed, clicked on it, and it was immediately after he'd gotten shot in the head.
Wow.
I'd recognized that shot and was like, oh my fucking God, this is the scene I saw, because then Matt Damon clips the other two guys and I was like, oh my God, that's fucking insane. Like, and so like there was a great deal of satisfaction for me there, because I was just like, I can't believe I've actually seen that part and I still didn't see it coming.
Yeah, I've seen the ending as well. Like the rooftop, I recognize, and I'm like, okay, I know like it goes down here. Like something's like gonna, like something's about to happen here, and I still couldn't, like, I didn't piece everything together, and like it still shocked the hell out of me.
It was you know, and that's what I'll give this movie, is that it has a really great shock value. You know, I think far and away this is the movie we talked about the most immediately after, before we got on the podcast, you know, because I had some like conflicting feelings about the movie, and I still kind of do. I still need to work through it, because you know, I don't really connect with any of these characters on a level that is really that compelling, you know. And I think it's a similar problem that Seven had. I think it's a similar problem that Training Day had, and I think Seven probably executed on it the best. I felt bad for Brad Pitt there at the end, but
Wife's Head in a Box really kind of.
Yeah, that's a rough one. No matter
the
who you
pregnancy are. And like that
yeah.
one.
And you know, it is more Gwyneth Paltrow that I'm like,
true,
fuck, than it is Brad Pitt. But because she's the one you're like, God, I hope she's all right. But you know, she wasn't. She was in the box. But yeah, I don't really connect with any of these characters. So when, you know, Billy steps off that elevator and immediately catches a bullet to the head, I go, damn. But it's like, it was a surprise, but it's not a gut punch. Like I said, you know, like I'm not getting,
no tears were dropped over this movie.
No tears shed.
Yeah. Did not cry. And yeah, I mean, I think if I felt for anyone the most, it was Billy.
Yeah, for sure.
And you know, it was just, he was placed into a situation where, I don't know. I think, I felt like there was for some reason, like a little Goodwill Hunting, like references in here. Like whenever he was in therapy, he kind of like goodwilled her, like at the beginning, you know, like analyzed her. So you had a drunk parent, and you know, like, you know, the little things.
There's a little line to Colin at some point that's like, well, your uncle was a janitor, and I was like, wouldn't it be crazy if Will Hunting was Colin's uncle? Much to think about.
Whoa. Which, yeah, but I mean, I did feel for him a little bit, but man, when he died, it was just an initial like, oh shit, he's dead. Like I thought he won here. You know, he had everything down, and then like, I mean, I think it might have just been because his death wasn't very glorious at all. It was very quick, very sudden. Just elevator opens, bam, dead, and then two more people die right after that. They certainly
didn't make a moment of it, but
even if they did, I don't think I would have. I don't know. I don't think the only glorious death or glorious moment death that really was in this one was Costello's. Was Jack Nicholson, the way he died, honestly, and like, oh, I'm like a son to you. Is that really what this is about right now? And you know, like that was the only kind of moment or big death that was kind of like paid attention to a little bit.
Yeah, I'd say so. And you know, credit to Jack Nicholson in this role too. You know, there are times in this movie where, you know, I'm not getting lost in it. Like there's sort of there's always sort of this distance between me and the movie while I'm watching it, where we were texting back and forth last night about how the whole rat dyad was
Mhm.
really, really entertaining. But there was something about it that I couldn't tell if it was truly what they were putting on screen that was entertaining me, or if it was the idea of it happening that made me go, how does this work out?
I see. Yeah, it is kind of an interesting thought experiment to take away this cast and have it be not Leonardo DiCaprio, Jack Nicholson, Matt Damon, Mark Wahlberg, Martin Sheen. If we didn't have these big names, if this movie is still what it is. And I think the main thing that we arrived at that would be our biggest gripe of the movie is the writing of this movie, which is interesting that it won an Oscar for.
William Monahan won Best Writing for an adapted screenplay.
Yeah, a remake of a movie that is also partially based on a true story, and the parts that they had to come up with themselves seemed very, very lazy. And I don't understand how. I think it truly is the cast that people like just lock onto on this movie. I mean, some people say that this is, their favorite movie of all time. There's the reviews of this movie are insane that they're saying that this is a masterpiece, that, it's,
well, and I think there's something to that. I think that you will find that this will probably be a lot of men's favorite movie of all time. Because it is a riveting action thriller, with no emotional resonance, with just a story that unfolds before you in a really crazy, twisty way. I just can't imagine rewatching it and enjoying it as much as I did on the first watch. Like, this doesn't have an infinite rewatchability for me. Like, I'll revisit it, but there are other movies that we've watched on this 52-year journey through film where I'm like, that will remain in my fucking rotation forever. Like, I will not stop watching that movie.
Yeah, like, and I guess every movie doesn't necessarily have to have an emotional connection to every character, because, some of these characters you shouldn't connect with or you shouldn't relate to. But, I'm thinking of, a movie like Shawshank Redemption. And if it just showed the events that happened and you had no connection to the characters whatsoever, that movie isn't what it is. You don't connect with Red, and you don't connect with Andy. That movie isn't what it is. That is what makes that movie, is their relationships and all the emotional connection you can have there. The events themselves aren't very grand or anything, but it's just, that's what makes that movie great.
Character moments.
And in this one, I think maybe it didn't care about that because it was either a cop or a rat or a mobster, or, people that you weren't supposed to connect with, I guess. But like,
true enough.
They could have done a lot more with Billy's character. I think they could have done a lot more with Colin's character.
There is only one character who I could potentially see myself connecting with. And to not act on that, that there's only one character to focus on here for emotional resonance. And it leads me to the conclusion that they absolutely weren't trying to do that, because if they were, they would have done better, I'm assuming, at trying to create a person who you like. I felt bad for him, but there were no character moments that made me go, God.
I think
fucking guy.
They were trying to make us feel bad for him, but every time they did, it was very lazy and they were just pushing it off, or it was in hearsay. Like, whenever his mother was dying, it was very fast and it just happened, and you had no time to see him get truly affected by it.
And then he walks out of the room and the guy's like, do you need money for the funeral? Because he's connected, and he's like, if we have you in our pocket, we'll bring you back in.
So, here, re-say that last line. The noise just came back for there.
Oh, gotcha. I was going to say that, I think it was so he offers the money for the funeral because, if they have him back in his pocket, he stays connected. And him saying once she dies, we're not connected anymore. It feels a little like, it's I understand why that's where your focus is at, but it's a pretty, he literally feels like he's just watched his mom die or is about to.
Yeah,
I don't it felt like a weird, not a very empathetic feeling there,
and like every time they would mention like in his past, it would just be like a character or Billy himself talking about like what happened to him in the past, and it was all like it was just kind of like one line that they were just trying to throw in there to make you feel for him, but it like never stuck. Like it was never an important part of the movie. I don't think they didn't. I don't know. It's very interesting that that the writing won an Oscar. That's the only kind of award that I don't understand here. But
yeah, you know, like I get the direction. I certainly get that.
One motion picture of the year.
One best picture, yeah.
And another finally we have some more Kansas City Film Critics Circle Award here for best screenplay.
Screenplay.
Yes, breast screenplay.
Speaking of breast screenplay, we had a porno theater in this, and what might have been a little homage to Taxi Driver 30 years earlier.
I didn't even think about that. Yeah.
But also, interestingly enough, just to show you how horny everyone is, if you go to the frequently asked questions on IMDb, the top one is, what is the name of the porn movie that is being shown at the theater?
No.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. That is oh my God. Wow.
That is the most frequently asked question about The Departed, which is frankly the funniest fucking thing I've ever seen.
That's that is nuts. It is the
they're like, that is an actual porno. We got to find out what that is. That looked awesome.
That's what you want to know about The Departed. You know, not a wow. But on IMDb, it is the 40th top movie out of everything. You know, it's
okay,
which is interesting. A lot of I think you hit it kind of on the nose there. That this is a movie that guys will get into, and yeah, I mean it's about a half point lower for the female rating, which is interesting. Or I guess compared to the male rating, it is even more than a half point for the young age. And I mean, it is just kind of events unraveling before you. And I don't want to downplay this movie and say that it, you know, I wasn't on the edge of my seat, because I definitely was. And
I certainly was too. It's the direction and the acting that keeps me in it, though. Like it is the performances that I'm like, I gotta see what's happening next now. You know what I'm saying? Like, I wanted Colin and Billy to meet. I wanted them to come face to face, or you know, phone to phone, like they did at some point. And you know, I was happy they finally did with like 30 minutes left in the movie. I was like, all right, cool. But you know, like I said, I'm not feeling for any of these guys. I'm just hoping for certain things out of the story as it's unfolding. And you know, there are definitely things that make me go, oh shit, you know, Queenan getting tossed out the side of a building. That was a rough one.
Damn. And I mean, I guess, you know, and that's the thing. They try to make us feel for him too. Like whenever Billy went over his house, they're like, that's my son behind you, my wife in bed. You know, they were just very like, before each character died, they try to make you feel for them. And it was just very lazy. Like that, I don't know. That's kind of the, if I have to sum up the writing in one word, I think it is lazy. Because even the big reveal, how Billy knows that Colin's the rat is through the envelope on his desk. And Billy, if he were to just write down all of his information, I guess, you know, he is a rat and he doesn't want to get, you know, discovered and everything, but he knows that they know he's part of their entourage, and he's using his legitimate name the entire time. There would have been nothing that popped up for him. And like, no one seems to care that he went through the academy and trained to become a cop. Like, it just like, it goes past everyone's mind. And Anthony Anderson's character even says like, oh yeah, he went through the academy with me. Like me and him, like, you know, we went through this together. And like, just he doesn't bring that up until the very, very end, even though like they obviously know he's part of, like, I don't know. It just seems that like a lot of things were just kind of thrown over or thrown away and just kind of just written to make the ending happen. But I mean, the ending itself was was worth it in the end. Like it did make the movie, and it is kind of like a Gladiator, in the sense where the ending makes up for kind of the downfalls of the earlier parts of the movie.
And it's an interesting parallel, you know, because I think what Gladiator does to save the ending is act on the emotional resonance that they've laid before you. Like, it is the sad moment they present before you at the end that makes you feel it. Meanwhile, this is the opposite. You know, like,
That's true.
That story kind of plays out how you were hoping, how you anticipate, what is satisfying. This one plays out, and it just happens. They are not going for the emotional resonance at all. Like, you know, that absolutely wasn't the intention. You know, like, I don't think they wanted to make us get moved to tears by these actions here at the end. I don't think that's the case at all. But
yeah, I mean, even at the very last death, you know, like could have made it a big moment. It was just okay. Like it says one line, boom, and it shot to the head, dead. You know, it's
okay. It's all like fuck. All right, I guess none of us were gonna make it out of this, and you know, it's funny. You know, look at that movie poster. And you got 3 characters on it, and it's called The Departed.
I guess that
they are all the departed.
That makes sense. Yeah, I mean everyone just dies at the end. It's just kind of like, instead of wrapping up any character that's supposed to live on for, there's like a bullet in the head's way easier. I don't know. I'm not saying that they're not supposed to die. I think most of them should have. But
yeah, it seems it feels right for the story anyway, for them for it to have unfolded this way. You know, Mark Wahlberg taking justice into his own hands, getting revenge for Queenan's death. I think that was I was just like, you know what, that's a nice subtle storyline. It felt very Tarantino-esque. I feel like he does the subtle thing where you're like, oh shit, yeah, that's right, okay. I'm coming to recognize a lot more similarities between Scorsese and Tarantino works the more that we watch them. I think Tarantino takes what any of Scorsese's experimental elements and turns them up, and goes really hard at that, because we've watched a few Tarantino movies, and I think Kill Bill and Kill Bill Volume 2 are a little different, but you know, Pulp Fiction, it is just a series of events unfolding before us. There isn't a lot of emotional resonance. There is a lot of sudden twists. Vincent Vega's death at the hands of Butch. It happens, it comes, it goes, and that's that.
That's true. Huh. Yeah, I don't know. I guess they weren't. It kind of seems they were trying to go for emotional resonance, though, a little bit, but it just didn't work. Like, I don't know. It seemed that they were trying, but I guess it wasn't.
I think they tried to build up sympathy for Billy, and it just felt it didn't quite do enough. Like, it did enough for me to go, well, I know this is the guy that I'm supposed to be sad for. Like, but I felt bad for him, you know, like his whole getting thrust into undercover work and it going so horribly, so quickly, him witnessing all sorts of terrible shit.
And I mean, I guess that, like, the performance that Leonardo gave, like whenever he is in therapy, for the, you know, talking to Madeline, and he's like, what do you want here? Like, what's the truth? And he's like, well, honestly, Valium, you know, and then she immediately like closes his folder, puts it back. He's like, well, you know, I'm seeing I haven't slept in weeks, you know, blah, 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 like, blah, blah, blah. Like, and whether he was, I mean, I feel like he was telling the truth there. And then he was like, yeah, if I'm supposed to be telling the truth here, where, you know, where am I supposed to like I don't know, like there were some moments, like very strong moments that he had.
And there are plenty of strong acting moments, you know, like I texted you last night that at the beginning of this movie, I'm kind of, we talked about this with Goodfellas, whenever the mob stories are being unfolded before us, who we kind of end up pulling for is the mob, typically. This one presents us with an obvious person to latch onto. in opposition to the mob. But you know, at the beginning of this movie, and not for a ton of it, but for a little bit of it, I thought I was going to be on Colin's side. I kind of liked that he was. I liked the informant inside deal for the mob, and I thought maybe they'd go a little bit more mob centric with the storyline, kind of trying to fuck over the police department and all that. But as it starts to unfold, you realize that's not what this movie is. You know, they're trying to get you to root for Billy, and you know, they ultimately do. You know, like there comes a point where Colin stabs that dude in the alley, and you're like, "Fuck! All right, that's officially that."
That chase scene, by the way, was like, that was one of my favorite scenes. The way they shot up, like in that wind chime, that like the mirror, and how it like showed like his, like literally like the, I don't know, kind of dyad, you know, of them two, and then like showing him like
turn around and run away.
This was right out of a porn theater or whatever. I think like it was just a really cool shot scene there.
I think so too, and I think that was I think to 7 for another chase scene that we were like, and that one, I'd say it was so stylistically different and both were so effective, but I think this one's just so good. You know, I'm not a huge fan of, like, I remember distinctly David Fincher's camera work running with Brad Pitt and the shaky cam stuff was going on. So it felt much more 90s detective noir. Like, it felt very aged, and this was just so much more it felt much more stylistic. Like they were going for an aesthetic appeal over the intensity of the chase.
Do you have any nominations that you would like to make?
Almost certainly. I don't know about set design or costume design. I don't think that there's anything really standing out there. Soundtrack it was solid, but it didn't pop for me. There wasn't a lot there. And now, if you want to get to the actress category, Vera Farmiga, who played Madeline, we got a little bit of a Sopranos and MCU crossover with her, as she was Eleanor Bishop, mother to Kate Bishop in Hawkeye, and Livia Soprano in The Many Saints of Newark.
That's
so played a young Tony Soprano's mom in the movie. So I was like, all right, this is interesting. And I think she deserves a nod somewhere.
Oh yeah.
It's just a matter of whether or not it's best actress or best supporting actress.
And that's what I was trying to differentiate. Like, I guess there is really no other actress in this movie. Like, I mean, she is pretty much the only one. I guess. I mean, I think she's a supporting role of the movie. But I guess when it does,
she is the lead actress.
That's true.
That's the complicated thing. So
yeah, I don't really know how that all works or anything. And it's interesting that Leonardo himself wasn't offered, you know, the nomination for this role. And I read it like in the trivia that they wanted, they didn't want his role to seem as the lead acting role of the movie, which is interesting that they really went with like Matt Damon and Jack Nicholson for like the leads of this movie. But I feel like if I'm nominating like the performance like that I like the most was Leonardo's or Jack Nicholson's, I would say were my two favorite performances.
And the way I'd define that is I'd go Jack Nicholson in supporting, Leonardo in leading. I really would. I think that I definitely think that's the case. You know, I think they left too much mystery on the table around Jack Nicholson for him to be the leading character. I thought both Matt Damon and Leonardo DiCaprio, I thought about listing both of them in the best actor category and leaving Jack Nicholson in the best supporting. But I think I'd agree. I don't think Matt Damon reaches quite as deep into the bag as he did with like Good Will Hunting. He's very effective, you know, like he's kept me in it. He was very intense, very well acted, but you know, I think you get a little bit more out of Billy with Leonardo DiCaprio.
I agree.
Definitely best director for Martin Scorsese. He's definitely getting that nom going up there with Ridley Scott, Quentin Tarantino, and Peter Jackson.
Yeah, no writing. I'm sorry. I don't think I'm going to give you a writing nom for this.
I don't think so either. And it's really interesting. If you look at our best writer category right now, it is blank. If there's anything we've had gripes with about our 2000s movies, it's been writing. And that's really interesting because, we are in 2006. We have 3 movies left for the decade, and we don't have a best writer nod yet.
Yeah, and I guess, with Kill Bill, it's based on, isn't it based on a novel for Kill Bill?
It was based on characters created by Uma and Quentin Tarantino. So I think it's pretty original there.
I guess, yeah, it is interesting. Like I say, out of the stories that I liked the most, I mean, obviously Scooby-Doo's going to be up there. And it could just be nominated for every category, obviously. But I'd say Kill Bill would be the strongest so far in the writing section.
I'd say so.
But I don't know, this movie that is just where I think not the only downfall necessarily, but the biggest downfall of this movie is the writing.
I mean, other than that, I feel really high on this movie from a critical perspective. Like, it was really well acted and really well directed. It had a really distinct style. Like those shots where Matt Damon was in a little bubble and the screen expanded, and the other one where it closed around him. I was like, okay, that's a cool little visual cue. Like, the world before him is opening up and everything's collapsing around him. There at the end. I thought it was very, very effective, and I really, really fucked with that.
Yeah, and I love the like whenever the movie starts to get, kind of everything's happening all at once, you don't know what's going to happen. Like one of my favorite moments was, I forgot what the character's name is, but it was right after Queenan was thrown off the building, and they were all the mob group was all back. Like recovering, and the guy that was shot, he was dying on the couch.
Yeah.
And he was like
De La Hunt.
How he basically, proved to Leonardo that he knew that he was the rat, but he's like, ask me why I didn't say anything, to anybody, which was interesting. As to the only thing I could come to for that is like after when Billy's talking to Costello, and they're like, think of anyone, on this crew who could think that they could be you and do it better. And I was like, is that what that guy was going? Like, why didn't he tell everyone else that, like, he told them the wrong address and he showed up at the right one? Like, it was it because he did want to see Costello fall?
And I remember when he said 314 Washington Street, I was like, it's 344 Washington Street. Is that going to be a problem? And then it certainly was. And yeah, I couldn't really tell you why he didn't do that. It doesn't.
De La Hunt.
Yeah, De La Hunt. And right. Interestingly enough, about Mark Rolston, the guy who plays De La Hunt, this was his 3rd appearance in our 52-year journey through film. If he appeared familiar, he was first in Aliens as one of the asshole sergeant, and he was the biggest piece of shit in the Shawshank Redemption, aside from Captain Hadley and Warden Norton. He was a rough one. To be sure.
Said not to be human in that movie. Those guys aren't human. They're or whatever. I guess this is his.
It's his most redeeming.
The noise is back.
Fuck.
Still gone.
All right.
Yeah, I guess out of his roles, this one is the most redeeming. He is still a mobster or whatever. He doesn't do anything necessarily too bad in here, but yeah,
he was just a massive piece of shit in Aliens, and then a massive piece of shit in the Shawshank Redemption, and this one he's just a piece of shit.
I guess I there were like he was a face where I'm like, I feel like I've seen that guy before, and thank you for bringing it up. It wasn't one that I would lose sleep over necessarily. They're like, oh man, what have I seen him in? But okay, that is nice. You know, these other people, you know, the main cast, it's like I obviously know where I've seen these people before.
Leo, Matt Damon, Jack Nicholson, Mark Wahlberg, Martin Sheen, Anthony Anderson, Alec Baldwin. Like, you recognize everybody in this fucking movie. And then, like, I was looking at Vera Farmiga, right? And I was like, she looks like Carmela Soprano. So hard. And I was thinking back to, like, what have I seen her in? And then I looked it up and I was like, Many Saints in Newark. That's crazy, because when I was watching that, I went, wow, Olivia Soprano looks just like Carmela Soprano. So I thought that was funny.
Yeah, I didn't even the Marvel connection. I did not pick that one up. I didn't
either. Well, that's what's crazy is, like, I happened on that, and like Many Saints is where I knew her from, but then I was looking and I was like, holy fucking shit. She's also in Hawkeye. She's Eleanor Bishop. She's the main villain in that show.
I don't know. She did just have a different look to her, I guess, in this movie.
She had the lighter hair going on.
But I don't know, her. She was you know, and Costello was like, it's always the wives that come back and get you. You know, and her at the funeral crying. You know, and Colin, you know, Matt Damon is looking at, like, you know, why is she crying here? You know, like, why is she so distraught? You know, and then you get after the funeral, he's like, well, what about the baby? And then, you know, she just continues. Blows right past him. Doesn't even say a thing. Like, how do you think that was going to go, man? She knows you're the rat. She heard the tapes. She knows, and like, it's Leonardo's kid. You know, I'm assuming that's the only reason they threw the erectile dysfunction swing in at
And it's interesting too, in the trivia, it says that it was Matt Damon's idea for the character to be impotent. Yeah, which is really interesting. He was just like, I think this is probably a good move, and it was like in contrast to Costello's overwhelming pigness. It was like they're in it for completely different things are completely different people, yet work together in a really strange capacity. Like the whole mentorship that they lay out before you is really, really cool. And I really, really enjoyed that. But
yeah, I guess they could have maybe like, and that's the thing, is like the parts that would give you emotional resonance would be like Matt Damon as a kid, and like maybe if we stuck with him a little bit more, and then like shown, you know, how he rose through the ranks or gained the trust of Costello more, or, you know, or even,
I will say, like, I certainly would have appreciated a little bit more of a building upon his character in an emotional way. You know, like, if they would have laid out to us that he was starting to resent Costello and was like, you're using me, mistreating me. Like, this is a long time coming. I'm going to do this. Maybe then. I did like the sentiment when it did happen, though. When he did kill him and he went, you rat fuck. I was like, this man is not police. You know, like through and through. He had no interest in being a cop other than to benefit the crime world he was in. So he kills him and he's like, you rat fuck. Like, you're fucking kidding me.
And yeah, I think what would have been interesting if he found out that he was an FBI informant a little earlier, and then maybe he was like, maybe if he had a plot against him, or like, you know, make sure it's true or something like that. But really, he figures out and he's dead. You know, they have their first encounter and then that's it. But yeah, I don't know. I think I don't know. They had the opportunity for emotional resonance, I feel, and I feel like they were trying, but it didn't hit and it didn't stick.
There are too many moments where Leonardo DiCaprio's being vulnerable as an actor for them to not be trying to evoke emotional resonance. It's just not hitting the way it's supposed to, I don't think.
Yeah, I don't know, that is kind of I don't know. Is it the story that I really like, or is it just the actors that are like keeping me in it? Like, I feel like the story is good though. Like
it's certainly entertaining. Like I remember I made the comparison to a sports game last night when we were watching it because, I made the comparison when he dies, he gets shot coming off the elevator, Billy. It's like when I'm watching a sports game and I've been pulling for one team the whole time and they lose, I'm gonna be like, fuck. But I'm immediately over it. I don't give a shit, man. Like I'm just like this was entertaining, and that was that.
That's true.
And it was ceaselessly entertaining. I will give it that. It kept me the whole time.
Yeah, I think I'm just trying to think of, the ratings, and we were talking how this one is going to kind of have to be one that we're going to have to talk through a little bit to really get down and everything. But I think the enjoyment category would be the easiest one. It is just how you felt about the movie. Since oh my God, how am I blanking? Since Dead Poets, it's how well you connected to the movie. So I guess, doesn't really have the biggest strength there, but for pure enjoyment.
Yeah, there are other aspects of this movie that are very enjoyable. I made the comparison to Gladiator levels of enjoyment last night, and upon further thinking about it, I think I enjoyed Gladiator more than I enjoyed this movie.
Because Gladiator, you were right, it did have the emotional connection at the end there, and that's what they did play on at the very end. It was basically actions unfolding that were cool to watch and that were entertaining, for the first part of it. But then the ending was, a massive oh, cool, this is actually happening. Like what? And then you have the emotional connection as well.
Right.
But this one, it's the events that are unfolding are, it's I guess it's cool, for the first parts of the movie, and the ending is definitely oh shit, holy crap. But then it's just kind of done after the end there, and I'm not thinking of the ending a whole lot after the movie. I'm like, okay, yeah, that happened, and that it's done with, it's over. Instead of damn, he's back with his family. He Maximus accomplished what he wanted to do, everything that he sought out to do, and now it was so fulfilling. Yeah, I think, and we gave Gladiator a 4.15 in enjoyment. And I think that is the ceiling for this movie.
I'll give you my range here. I think the ceiling is 4.15 with Gladiator. The floor is Pulp Fiction with 3.75.
Okay. And I guess that would put it in enjoyment rating with American Graffiti at a 4, A Clockwork Orange at a 4, and Apocalypse Now at a 4. If we were to give it a 4 to put it in between both of those, which I think I don't know if I can say necessarily. That high. Yeah, I don't think I can say that I enjoyed The Departed more than American Graffiti. A Clockwork Orange, I felt
very strongly I enjoyed A Clockwork Orange more than The Departed.
So
Apocalypse Now. I heard that and I was like, I think I'd watch Apocalypse, because they're similar in length, and I get a lot more of an unsettling feeling about Apocalypse Now. I can feel it a little bit more, and I know I will on rewatch too.
But I can say that I think I enjoyed this movie more than Pulp Fiction, though.
I did too. I can definitely say that.
So I guess that would put it 3.8, 3.9, I guess, range, or 3.85 if we want. I don't know where.
I think I'm probably more around there. 3.85, 3.9. That feels like a good range to put it in. Because I'm certainly higher on this than I was Pulp Fiction. I walk away from this movie with the story. There was a story, more so than Pulp Fiction even. There was actually a cohesive narrative that went together pretty seamlessly.
Mm-hmm.
It just didn't evoke any emotion from me. And
I guess, do you think it is closer to Pulp Fiction or closer to American Graffiti, Clockwork Orange, and Apocalypse Now?
for me, it's closer to Pulp Fiction.
So I think either
8.5 is probably
3.85, is where I think that's comfortable. Very interesting.
Now, that's the only category I think it'll hurt a little bit, because I do think it was extremely well done. And I think it was, as a crime movie is concerned, boy, it's nothing but crime. And it's really, really on the edge of your seat, shit, you know, like,
and even though like, Costello's character is based on a true story, and there were 5 crime bosses at the time, you know, like they could have weaved that in, but I think it would have just made the story more complicated.
yeah,
I think it does just,
probably.
It is better that it's just, he is the obvious one that the police are going after. There's there's no other players in the game. It's him. And that's it. I think it actually strengthens the movie. I think if they would have thrown in, 4 other crime bosses, it would have just been too convoluted. But I
agree.
I mean, it is crime through and through. And as crime movies go, this was one of my favorites in the genre category that we've done so far. I think a lot of other times that we've had a crime movie, it was kind of the story or something else that really was stronger. I guess like Training Day, we kind like the crime aspect. I don't know, kind of. I don't feel was up to this level, and 7, even though that was kind of all crime as well.
True enough. Yeah, I think I'm closer to 7 than I am Training Day. Like and maybe even above 7. I do think I think 7 and Training Day, 7 and The Departed have similar endings, in that it's not ceremonious, it's not happy. It's not what you wanted. It's dark. It's just like, here's what happened. Oops, sorry. Bye.
Yeah.
And I feel like 7 did that better. Mostly because like that moment's just so like, fuck. What's in the box?
Yeah, it was 7 had one massive twist at the end.
This had like 3.
Yeah, it just was like bam, bam, bam. With
Literally,
this one.
bam,
and I guess, I guess that's kind of what you want out of a crime movie, is that it's not supposed to be a happy ending, like you're not supposed to get yourself involved in this sort of situation, and it should end up bad. It's not supposed to be a fairy tale ending, but
no, and I definitely don't think so. And that's why I think like 7's ending was a tragedy. This just kind of happened. And I don't think that's a genre thing, but I just wanted to go into the further comparisons between some of the crime movies we've covered. I'd say the crime elements of this movie were greater than 7 or Training Day. I think Training Day, it showed me, would have benefited a lot from a mob storyline instead of narcotics. Hard to give a fuck about dude smoking weed, which they commented on a couple times in that movie. I'm like, dude, y'all are narcs, okay? This one's a little bit more like I can get behind, taking down the mob. That one feels a little bit more appropriate to the times, rather than we're gonna lock you up for 25 years for fucking selling weed. Like, I don't know, man. That's
And I guess I'm hesitant. Like, I feel like in the crime category it did really, really well. But I'm still hesitant to be like this. I don't think this is a 5 out of 5.
No.
And I think
I'd say I'd give it the edge over 7, and maybe go straight up 4.8, 4.85. Because it's really strong. I think other crime movies we have that are 5 out of 5 is The Godfather, Godfather 2.
I guess if you consider Taxi Driver, Taxi Driver, I guess, has crime. We gave that.
I'd say that's a crime movie. Scarface, definitely a crime movie.
4 for Scarface as well. Goodfellas,
I'm
a 5. Yeah, I think it slots in between 7 and like a Godfather. It's not up to the level that Godfather and Goodfellas were, but but definitely a little bit above 7. So I mean, I feel 4.8, 4.85 is where I'm at as well.
All right, then I say we go ahead and put her down. 4.85 feels right.
Okay, and now critically, as a film, don't think it's in the 4.9 range with our our top movies, and I still feel the 4.85, with Goodfellas, Gladiator, Matrix, King Kong, Jurassic Park, Kill Bill, Trainspotting.
Not quite there for me either.
I guess it's getting
warmer.
close, but still not 4.8 range with Dead Poets, Truman Show, Forrest Gump, Good Will Hunting, and 7 here, a 4.77. It's, I guess, wow. I mean, I feel like the ceiling for this is around a 4.75. 4.8 is absolute ceiling. It does not go above 4.8.
No, yeah. I'd say 4.75 is probably fair.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe even a 4.7.
Yeah, I think our 4.75s are Godfather Part 2 and Boys in the Hood, and I feel Boys in the Hood just has so much better of a story, and the Godfather Part 2 has the filmmaking and the story there. I feel like
this, the Apocalypse Now, Kill Bill, Pulp Fiction range is feeling more accurate for it.
And I think it did better than Pulp Fiction, and Kill Bill Volume 2 just being a sequel, kind of hard for it. Yeah, well,
standalone.
I think 4.7 is probably where I would say fits in with Apocalypse Now, and if we do that, it would average this out to a 4.47, which puts it right above the 36 Chamber of Shaolin, but below Gladiator, which
makes just so right.
Makes perfect sense. I mean, it's just what Gladiator did, but it didn't execute as well as Gladiator.
Yeah.
So I think that definitely that worked out pretty well there. And a little interesting tidbit of information: this rating system kind of was inspired by this movie in a way.
Right.
My cousins kind of gave me the idea for this rating system, and instead they didn't do 3 categories, but they would choose a category that best describes this movie. They would do film, movie, and then basically everything else. So this was to them a film 9 is what they would say. It's not a movie. This is more of a film in their opinion.
Gotcha.
And so I kind of took from there. And
we reworked it a bit,
mm-hmm.
but the point stands. It was inspired by that rating system
mm-hmm.
nonetheless. And that rating system shook out to a 4.47 for
mm-hmm.
us. And, I think we'd get their approval. As, out of 10, that's almost a 9.
Almost there. Yeah, perfect. I think it worked out pretty well. I'm comfortable. I don't think really needs any adjusting. I think really having all of the other movies to compare it to really helps. Now that we just have a lot of other.
We got a large sample size at this point. So, and continuing to add to this as we even go beyond the 52-year journey through film, man, it'll be nice to have these to compare it to. Just be like, yeah, where's this slot in?
Mm-hmm. I love that I just have a list that I can show people and be like, yes, this is how I feel about movies, pretty much, like almost to a T. And I can recommend, all of these great movies for you, and the ones that I feel the best on, the ones that I enjoyed more, ones that I enjoyed for how they were made more, and the filmmaking and stuff like that. Which, but yeah, I think we got some good data to refer back to, but
certainly some good data. But with that, we conclude this episode of the Penny Bloom Podcast. Our Friday episodes are our 52-year journey through film, as you know, and it's been a great deal of fun. And this week was 2006, but next week we'll bring 2007, where we will have yet another crime movie, and yet another Denzel Washington movie, An American Gangster,
Let's
for
go.
2007. And I'm very, very excited about that. But with that, if you would, head to patreon.com/KoroBloom, where you'll find over 24 hours of exclusive content not available anywhere else. And then if you would, head to Twitter, follow at PennyBloomPod, follow on Instagram at PennyBloomPodcast. I was Colton Robertson. I was joined by Joseph George. Thank you very much, homie.
Well, thank you for having me. Always a pleasure to be here.
Oh, and it is always a pleasure to have you. And remember, peace, love, and bloom. And maybe not. Maybe fuck yourself.